It's from Static Shock. Superhero Static Shock. Superhero Static Shock.
I love this show so much. Hi guys, happy Friday. Before I get started, I just wanted to thank everyone who's been watching the videos that I've been making, like my Invincible ones and the one I did yesterday. I love the comments. I love the discussion. Anytime I get to see a different point of view, whether it mirrors mine or not, always a learning experience. So I can't ask for much more. So thank you. And I think we're almost up to like 90 subscribers. So hey, what's up? What's up? Oh my goodness. Welcome to the channel. Welcome to the party. Let's have some fun. How are we going to have fun today? We are going to talk about the legendary, the amazing Static Shock. This show was truly ahead of its time.
Batman unhappy.
First, we don't have guests here. And second, I'm Batman.
And I'm Beyonce.
Seriously. So when I tell you Static Shock was that show, is that show, like no exaggeration, for the time period and right now, because it is held up for so long, it's amazing. Like Static Shock has had what, almost 5 crossovers? 5 crossovers. He crossed over with Batman and Robin, and by extension Joker, and I even think Harley made an appearance. He crossed over with Batman Beyond. Yeah, he crossed over with Batman Beyond. He met his future self. He crossed over with Green Lantern. He crossed over with Superman, and then I feel like I might get this last one wrong, but I would consider the last crossover to be when he met Anisi, who was like, this is African mythology. Like, the fact that they even touched on African mythology in a kids show is incredible. And it's just one of the reasons why the show holds up so well. It is probably my favorite show, my favorite DC animated TV show ever. Top 5, I would say, is Static Shock, Teen Titans, Batman Beyond, Justice League Unlimited, and Young Justice. Yeah. Static Shock holds a special, special place in my heart. Because really for me as a kid, and I'm sure a lot of other Black kids and a lot of adults, this was the first time that I had seen a Black-led superhero show. And the fact that we got to see Virgil doing his thing every week, kicking butt, using his genius intellect to maneuver out of situations, it was incredible for me as a kid to see that, and that I could look up to someone who was so down to earth and so smart and funny and clever. And he was just, everything felt so real. It felt so real and personal. And I could relate to it so much, even if I hadn't experienced some of the topics that they get into in the show. You know, it taught so many important lessons that you don't see in a lot of superhero shows. You don't see it. Not in and the way that it was handled. It was great. It was great. I don't even know where to start, but before I do start, small spoiler warning in case you haven't watched the show or you're thinking about watching the show, because I know I'm gonna slip up. I know how I am. I'm gonna say something, and so yeah, I am gonna talk about certain plot points in the show, but in case I slip up with like a huge spoiler or whatever, that's your warning. Let's talk about the kick-ass theme song that you heard in the beginning. The music for this show, oh my god, I love it. I love the hip-hop influence. I love the theme song, and even when it changed throughout the seasons, as you can tell, season 3 is my favorite of them all. but the hip hop, everything. It felt so great. It felt so black. It felt so fun. Um, and most of the time the music just fit. It really did. It just fit. So what else aside from the kick-ass music? Let's talk about the amazing characters that we got in this show. Let's start with Virgil. Virgil Hawkins himself. I loved Virgil in the show. He was so funny and so down to earth and so relatable. Like, I could see myself being friends with Virgil and Richie. Like, I could see myself being in that friend group. Like, I think it was him, Richie, Frida was sometimes there, and Daisy. I think that was the group. I don't know, where did Frida go? I'll talk about her. What the hell happened to Frida? Like, she was one of the more forgettable ones. I hate to say it, but like, I would say with an exception of like maybe 2 or 3 female characters, like on the protagonist side, the rest were kind of forgettable, which sucks. At least that's to me. But one of them is Frida, because I have no idea what the hell happened to her after season 1. I know she was there. I think she was Virgil's like main love interest. And then Daisy came in, and I don't know what happened to her. Was she in the rest of the show? Please let me know, because I truly don't remember. She did not leave an impact aside from season 1. Daisy was cool. She came in. She was smart as hell. She was a genius. I loved what she brought. I loved her dynamic with Virgil and how she pushed him to be better intellectually. I just feel like after maybe like a season or 2, she just was relegated to damsel in distress. And she kind of was, but kind of wasn't. Like, she still had a personality, but she didn't do much outside of be in dangerous situations, and then Virgil would have to save her or whatever. So, but my 2 favorite female characters, Miss Shebang and and Virgil's sister. They're my 2 favorite. I love Shebang so much. The fact that her and Virgil never got together, bit suspect, but whatever. I'll get over it. She was so fun. She was so fun. She had that sass, and she also did things on her own, like Virgil. I think she was a little more stubborn, and she didn't really want help, but she was kicking butt. Like, and when her, Virgil, and Gear worked together, A+, A friggin' plus. But yeah, I could imagine myself being in that friend group. Like, he seemed like so much fun to be around. I really enjoyed that in this show, we got to see Virgil be a hero and navigate through, trying to balance that in his personal life. All of that really, he was on his own for the most part until like seasons 3 and 4. I want to say, yeah, 3 and 4. Because that's when Richie became Gear and they kind of started partnering up. But for the most part, he did this all on his own. Like, I think he made his own costume. He went out and solved crime on his own. He dealt with all of these villains. He was witty. He used his intellect to get out of situations. Like, all of that was on his own. And I really enjoyed that we got to see that. We got to see Virgil develop as a character without being overshadowed by all the side characters. And we still had the side characters feel like they weren't, Virgil's lackey or whatever. Like Gear. He felt like his own character. He had his own development. And I enjoyed it, in my opinion. My girl Shebang. She was her own character. She's like my favorite, but it never felt like she was behind Virgil. Like, she could shine on her own if she wanted to. even Virgil's family, like Virgil's sister and his dad, they're their own people. And you get to see his relationships with them and how they change throughout the seasons. I just think that's really important for any hero. It just makes it so rounded and it makes it a lot more relatable. It almost reminds me of Spider-Man, TV Spider-Man, not MCU Spider-Man. TV Spider-Man, that was him all the time. Comic book Spider-Man, that was him almost all the time. Not to say that having a team or having a partner is a bad thing, not at all. But it's nice when you have your trials and tribulations amongst yourself. It allows you to grow and to learn. And especially on a show, sometimes things get lost in the fray when you have such a huge team and you have to focus on developing every single person. And I like that in Static Shock, it was very clear. This is Static Shock's story. This is his journey. And for that, the show is better for it. So let's talk about the villains. Because I love the villains in this show. I really believe Static Shock has the most diverse rogues gallery I've seen in a long time. Seriously. Like, we have someone as obscure as Boom, who literally has a speaker in the middle of his chest and can emit sonic waves. We have someone as obscure as that to someone as well known as Ebon and his crew with Talon and Puff, Heatstroke. I forgot the other guy's name, but yeah, you know, it's so diverse. The spectrum is huge. And I like how even if they're one-off villains, they're memorable because of the creativity that was put into them and the stories around them. And it was so imaginative. And some of the reasons why these people became bang babies was a result of the gang violence, of the gun violence. They were a product of that environment and they could never escape it. And now with these powers, they figure, well, here's an easier way for me to get what I've been going for since before this even happened. While they're not all sympathetic, you still understand their point of view. You still get why Static is trying to appeal to them and make them see the light. And I really, really appreciate that. Before I get to the interpersonal relationships, let's talk about these stories that Static Shock explored. Because I really believe that is the show's greatest strength, is the topics that they discuss. This is why I say the show was ahead of its time, because the way that they discussed heavy topics like racism, the school shooting, gang violence, gun violence, a sense of worth, a sense of identity, being Black and being a superhero, like all of that was discussed, and it was done with such care and nuance. It just felt so personal. You don't see heroes like Batman or Superman dealing with something on this scale. They deal with issues on a wider, more broad scale, right? They don't get down in the depths of Gotham, in the depths of Metropolis, and deal with something like what Virgil did. They don't. Not in their respective shows. To me, they did not, right? They were always looking at the bigger picture. And Virgil is someone who was focused on the small details within his community, within Dakota. And they would get really deep with these topics. You wouldn't think it was a kid's show. You really wouldn't. You wouldn't think that Static Shock was in the same universe as Batman and Superman. You really wouldn't. I think their willingness to talk about these topics and not do it to which they're handling it with kid gloves, but also not to the point where it's so mature that it turns away their core audience, which are children. It's that perfect balance, and it works so well. I liked when they talked about certain issues because it wasn't always black and white. Like I keep saying, it was so real. It was so real. And you just don't see that in an animated kids show today. You don't see it in live action today. It's always, to me, it always felt a little on the nose. But it wasn't like that with Static Shock. And it especially wasn't like that when we see Static in his interpersonal relationships with his sister, with his father, even with his mother. When he went back in time and got to see her one last time. I thought that was beautiful because it really explores, when they explore grief, again, it's not black and white. Because there are moments in that episode when Virgil, he wants to, abuse him going back in time, because I think they use a girl to do it. She has like the power to go back in time, and so there are points where he wants to like abuse that and stay and just be with his mom, but he knows that he can't, and he has to come to terms with the fact that she's going to die. Virgil finally got to get that closure that I don't think he would have gotten for another 5 to 10 years, because he's a kid, like he is a teenager. And he lost his mom when he was a baby. He never had those memories that his sister had or that his father had. He never got to experience that because he was just a kid. And the fact that he could go back in time and see her saving the day, and she met him as Static, and she was so proud of him. Like, it was done so well. And for him to get that closure and to finally move forward and accept that his mother passed, and he got to learn a little bit about her, something that will stay with him for the rest of his life. What more can you ask for? It's relationships like that that really make the show. The relationship that Virgil holds with his father is also an important one, because in the beginning, him and Virgil were not on the best of terms. Like, they were cool, but it was always some type of tension, and it kept building and building, and I forgot when it sort of combusted. I think the episode when he went back in time, I think that might have been when it combusted, because it's just a lot of overwhelming feelings. But when Virgil's father finds out he's Static, I think that helped repair the relationship a lot, because there was a lot of mistrust. Virgil was always gone or bailing, and that helped to sort of repair the relationship a little bit and make it so his father finally understands a part of his son that he was never introduced to beforehand. And him and his sister, they're funny. They're funny. They're always teasing each other, but they love each other. And specifically when his sister gets with Rubber Band Man, who is a villain, and he is Ebon's brother, actually, but he's probably the most sympathetic villain in the entire show. When she gets with him, Virgil is not having it. He's like, he's not trustworthy, don't do that. No. Because he loves his sister. He's going to protect his sister. But, Rubber Band Man proves that he has her best interests at heart. And even when things go awry, him and Rubber Band Man's relationship, like that friendship, it was interesting. It was very interesting. In terms of the last episode of the show, or like the ending of the show, I thought it was good. It had to do with there being a sudden cure for all the Bang Babies. So everyone who had powers, they were starting to revert back to normal. And, for a lot of them, it was a blessing, because a lot of them, when they became Bang Babies, it transformed them and they became almost monster-like. Their skin changed color, they became taller, they had like spikes and stuff. Like, so a lot of them, and this is like villains, right? They were extremely happy. And on the hero side, we have Virgil, who was, I believe, ready to just drop being Static Shock and go back to normal. And on Gear's side, I believe he kind of felt incomplete because his thing was he was extremely intelligent to the point where he could solve math questions in like under a second. He was creating all these gadgets, and now all of that is just gone. So I feel like he felt incomplete without that intelligence, like enhanced intelligence. Sorry. And Virgil also felt a little incomplete, but I think he was more concerned with maybe finally getting back to a normal life because the villains were no longer villains. So what was the point, you know? So I thought it was a good wrap up. But I don't know. It's something about these shows. Like this show, Batman Beyond, Teen Titans, Young Justice, until Warner Brothers got off their feet, right? They always felt unfinished. They felt unfinished as hell. They would end in a way where it was like, are we not going to keep going? Oh, we're not. Oh, it's done. You're like, whoa, okay. Yikes. So, I don't know. I really hope Static continues. I think they're doing a movie. I think that's in development. I can't wait to see how that's going. But Static needs to continue. Same with Batman Beyond. Their stories deserve to be told in live action. Soon. Like, come on. The potential is right there. So I hope that WB takes advantage of it. And I hope that they do it right. Because they have a history of messing things up. What else is there to say? Really nothing else. I implore you to watch it. I'm going to rewatch it. I'll probably do like a overview for each season. Is it perfect? Nah, definitely not. But it is one for the books. I think that's all I have. Thank you for watching, for listening. I will catch you guys maybe tomorrow. If not tomorrow, then definitely next Friday. Bye, guys.